KBLA Talk 1580. We sure do. Time to shine your light on the world. Look, I am encouraging you to tap in, weigh in with us on social media at KBLA 1580. We're on every single platform. Right now, streaming on YouTube, where we are expecting any moment the great scholar, African Black history scholar, Ashra Kwesi, to join me in the studio. It's pretty exciting. It's a rare treat. But I'm also at Diprima Radio, DIPRIMA, and then radio. If you're in the YouTube chat, if you're one of our KBLA delegates that chimes in with the comment section every morning, would so appreciate you subscribing, making a comment, saying a thing about what is going on, and also follow me on YouTube. I'm at Diprima Radio, DIPRIMA Radio, or you could put Dominique B. Diprima. The B is for Baraka. That is me on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, follow, subscribe, and then don't forget all the other socials, because I do check in my DMs, especially on Instagram. I do check in and look for what it is you want to see on the show. If you have guests that you're interested in, I love to get those DMs, and we will follow up, especially if you got an email, a website, a phone number. If not, we'll do our best to hunt them down and get their attention. All of this is part of the interactive nature of First Things First with me, Dominique Diprima. You're always invited to call, even when we have a great scholar like Ashra Kwesi on the show. You can call in and ask a question or question and answer. That's part of what we do here on this particular show. And I want to, shout out everybody who has been supporting us this entire year. I mean, telling a friend, getting the app, downloading it off the Google Play or the App Store where it's free, finding our podcasts. They are wherever you get your podcasts. If you go to Apple Pods, if you go to Spotify, if you're not boycotting them, wherever you get podcasts, our podcasts live there. You could also find them at YouTube, KBLA. If you missed past shows, we do Freedman Friday shows every week, and we've had everyone from Anthony Browder to Camila Moore and others talking about Dr. Sandy Darity and others talking about reparations and filling in all the gaps in our knowledge. So you can find all of those on youtube.com at KBLA 1580. Some of them are up on my YouTube, which is Diprima Radio. So when we talk about Kwesi, we're talking about ancient Egypt mostly, although he's a scholar of African history. When you think about ancient Egypt, we have to look at the colonization of our own studies and our own way of seeing the world. And these are the things that Brother Ashra Kwesi challenges us, and he challenges us with receipts, with photos, with he's eyewitnessed most of the art culture. So we'll look at all of that when we come forward. That's next. Ashra Kwesi, world-renowned scholar, and takes people to Egypt on tours with his wife Merira every single year. He's an author. We will talk with him next on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu, the daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2025, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-260-3330. That's 800-260-3330. Find out if you qualify today. 800-260-3330, or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform. One reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And this morning, you're not just waking up with me. It is my honor to welcome to the studio one of our premier scholars on African and Black history. He is a lecturer, an author, and actually leads tours to Kemet, the motherland, every single year with his wife, Merira. Ashra Kwesi, welcome to KBLA.
Great honor to be here, Dominique.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I know you come in town to,
KBLA.
KBLA. We just need a C and a K. Those are silent. But I know you come here, every 6 months or so. You travel all around the world. And one of the times that you typically come is the holiday season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a very important time. A lot of people are out there in the frolicking of the holiday. I call it the celebration of the multinational corporation celebration. Everybody's making money in the multinational corporations, but little people are out there struggling, trying to buy those gifts. But when we look at this holiday, I find this very important. As you mentioned, many years, 43 years now, returning back to Kemet, as it's referred to as Egypt.
43 years?
43
wow.
years. I've been, it's like a whole time and space went so fast, I can't believe myself.
And you guys go twice a year, so that's close to 100 trips.
Yes, and 2 trips in the summer.
Wow.
We're honored that brothers and sisters love to travel with us. So because of the popularity of the tour, we have to do 2 tours, my wife and I.
It's funny to me because I know that, you're all about the business of teaching people and helping us understand what we're seeing when we go to Egypt, to Kemet. And you've told me that you're a little bit like a drill sergeant, but people can't get enough of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so much to do, and when you have a large group, you have to be a little drill sergeant. We take over 100 and some people. So
wow.
Again, but the people love it when they see that we're on time and things are organized. In fact, our trip is known for being very organized.
Yes,
so we have
no
to keep
doubt.
it that way. We can't let 1 or 2 people turn out the whole trip.
No doubt. So one of the things that you come for every holiday season is to talk about the African origins in what we see, the Christmas myths, the symbols, and the stories. And you're doing just that tomorrow, Saturday the 13th, at 3725 Don Felipe Drive in LA. 5 o'clock doors open. Lecture starts at 6. And this is put on by Afropedia, our friend Abid. And
Brother Abid,
yeah,
yes.
and those
From
folks.
University, as Bobby Wright would call it.
Yes. So why is it so important to you to talk about the historical beginnings of Christianity, and what are some of the things that we don't know?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, traveling to Kemet for 43 years, and the monuments, of course, will blow your mind, but it's the reliefs that are very powerful, and so powerful that we can see that what we see in this holiday was literally many concepts were literally plagiarized from the temples and tombs. We know that the Greeks were the early Europeans who first came into Egypt, and then after them it became the Romans. And in that process, they built an Alexandria library. That was during the Ptolemaic period of 300 years. Romans, another 400 years. Byzantine Romans, another 400 years. Talking about over 1,000 years studying this knowledge. And even though many of the temples were plundered from the papyruses, in fact, where the name paper gets its name, by the way, from papyrus, even though those temples were plundered in the libraries, but they built that Alexandria library and studied for over 1,000 years. That's a very long time. So when we see this holiday and many things in this winter solstice, as Kemet referred to it as at this particular time, the birth of the sun. In fact, it was called the Rames, the birth of the sun. And it was during this time, it was also called the Kames Haru. Okay, Kames means the spiritual birth. In fact, this is how Christmas, in fact, gets its name out of Kames. Okay,
Christmas, Kames.
Kames means the spiritual birth. Kames, spiritual birth. So at this time, it was the spiritual birth of Haru. Now, all this is around, as we know, about the birth of Jesus, but that whole concept was literally plagiarized from the Kames Haru. That means Haru was born at December the 25th, and we actually showed this to our group at the temples. One temple called the Temple of Dandara. They're dedicated to head Haru. And she was called Merira, by the way, okay, that means love. And being the surrogate mother for Haru, and I know many people do not know many of these concepts and stories, but this, without ancient Egypt, what we know is the Christmas holiday would not exist in terms of how we know it. Now, we know about the idea of the star in the east that gave the indication that Jesus was going to be born in the three magi or three wise men. And many of our people are just blown away when they go to the temple of Isis, now called it was called the Temple of Aset. In fact, it was the last temple that was closed by the Byzantine Romans. Why was this temple shut down? It was Theodosius and Justinian in the 4th and 6th century A.D. Literally, not only did they chisel out the Madonna and child of Isis, okay, lactating her holy child Haru, who was born of a holy birth and immaculate conception, but by closing this temple down, they knew that the world would not know. And these temples were, in fact, covered in sand for 1,000 years. They were only dug out to make tourist dollars, but not to tell the truth with many of the concepts that we see. So when we think of ideas, when I show people what the Menmezi house means, the birth house, and you see what is known as the Netarus. Netarus would be like, we would say it's angels today, or divine divinities. And they are shocked to see three of them coming, okay, giving adoration to the Holy Child Haru, carved in stone, and seeing that this predates Western version of Christianity. Now, when we go back and look at the Matthews, and we go back and look at Matthews, okay, and the story of Matthews, he's writing the story of the holy birth, okay, and the Magi and the star in the east to give the indication that Jesus was born on December the 25th. He's writing it Alexandria, Egypt. Now, this is important because that library is there of these ancient scrolls and papyruses that were stolen from these temples to build the Alexandria Library. So Matthews is writing this story based off of an ancient story created by African people thousands of years ago. As I always say, that African people, we are a stolen people from the African continent. So an intelligent question I would ask, what else has been stolen? And even though we're caught up in the frenzy, some of us, in this holiday, trying to buy so many things and so forth. And even though you see many ideas around the holiday, and of course, many of the people who are buying pine trees and cutting down the forest and so forth, okay, that gives us oxygen, okay, that we need. But one has to ask why, okay, why do we have that? Well, culture is very important. Now, when we look at the Romans, okay, when they were trying to convert the Germanic tribes, okay, over into the Western version, I say the Western version of Christianity because Christianity started in Egypt before the Western version of it, okay, as we know it. But when the Romans were going into Germania, the Germans. Yeah, this is Germany. It was called Germania.
It was
at
called
that time.
Germania. So the
Now it's
Romans
called
are
Germany.
trying to convert the Germanians,
Right.
aka the
But-
Germans,
but-
over to Christianity.
But they had customs and things that they did not want to give up. And some of these customs was the pine tree. Now, why the pine tree in Germany? Now, you think of Germany and think of winter. Everything becomes barren but that pine tree, as they refer to as the evergreen tree. And they bow down and worship that tree because it represented Thor. By the way, Thursday is named. That's where Thursday gets its name. Friday was Freya, the mother. Saturday was Saturnalia. Okay, that goes back to the Romans who also worship Saturnalia that Santa is derived from. But back to this tree. So they bow down and worship that tree. So the question is, why do we put gifts up under that tree, that pine tree? We put gifts up under that tree because you got to bow down to that tree to get your gift. And that goes back to Thor, okay, in the evergreen tree. Now, the Germans brought that tree to America, okay, in 1840 in Germantown, all right? That's where the Germans set up in Germantown. Now, even though many black people live there now, but one time it was Germans. And that's when the tree, the pine tree, the Christmas tree, that's when it came to America in 1840. And from that time out, it's a German culture, all right, of the pine tree bowing down to that tree.
So it sounds like if it's based on German culture, it's more of what people would call a pagan tradition or a indigenous tradition.
Well, yeah.
Thor.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back. Well, see, for instance, if we go to people say they go buy the Bible, let's go buy it. Instead of going buy it, let's go in it a little bit. There's some things in there that we
go
need.
buy it, go in it.
Instead of just looking at these things, okay, we want to look at it and see where the customs came from. So I go to Jeremiah. And Jeremiah, it clearly says, okay, because there's some things in there we need to know, and there's some things in the Bible we don't need to know. But we need to know in Jeremiah, it says, do not take it away of the heathen. Well, heathen is a German term, okay, that means heath dweller. A heath dweller is one who's uncivilized. And they say they'll cut the tree out of forest, they'll deck it with silver and gold and so forth. Now, that's in the Bible. That's telling you that this is the way of the heathen, okay, as you just referred to as the pagans, what they would do with this particular tree at this particular time. All right. Now, this other character this in this holiday is Santa, okay, or Santa Claus, as we refer to as. And a child could get confused. You got Jesus on one side and Santa Claus on the other side. Now, who you think going to go with? Because Santa Claus brings the gifts.
Some reindeer, right,
and all those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
True.
That's another culture that came from the Romans of Saturnalia. During this time, they were called, Caesar's Christians, all right, because they were able to celebrate Christianity and so forth right along with Saturnalia at this particular time. Now, the difference with Saturnalia, he did not bring gifts. He ate his babies, all right. In Greece, he was called Cronus. Anyone can look up Cronus, all right. And Cronus ate his babies, and it's a very famous art, okay, in Western art of Cronus eating his baby, and the blood is running. Now, I know this is some gory stuff, and I know this people may be dejected by listening to this kind of thing. It's such a joyous time of the year.
It's not Halloween,
right? But at least we should think about some of the things that we're practicing, that we're in. So he's eating his babies, and this is where the Santa Claus is derived from. And now keep in mind the candy cane. And the elf, that we see generally attached to the candy cane is symbolic. It's a symbol. It's a subliminal message of an old culture that came out of the Roman culture, came out of the Greek culture, and now we see Santa Claus eating his baby, and the candy cane with the red going down that candy cane is the blood running down the baby. Anyone can look that up, Cronus, and see him eating the baby. And I know this is rough because people might have their candy canes on their tree and have the tree and bowing down to the tree of Thor and so forth. But at least we can understand why these things are here and where they actually came from. But even though we practice this in America, we can see the vilifying and demonizing of African images. For instance, if we were to go to the Netherlands, okay, and even to this day, there are black people in the Netherlands, okay, who are protesting against what they call Zester Piet. Now, Zester Piet is referred to as Black Peter. And right now in the Netherlands, they are running around with this character of Santa Claus, okay? and he is Santa Claus servants in the Netherlands, or these are Europeans who blackface themselves. They blackface themselves, and they are these are referred to as Santa's servants. All right. So sometimes to understand what we're in, sometimes you have to go outside of America, and going outside of America, we can see this practice going on. And one man went back to the Netherlands, and he was shocked at how so many the Dutch and were running up to him and wanted to touch him and so forth. Okay, he was a very melanated brother, but he didn't understand that they were looking at him as Zetzer Pete, right? And Zetzer Pete was Santa's servants. All right. So the question is, what are we practicing over here when we see that as part of a European culture and so forth? And these are some things for us to understand, that even though we see the spirituality that came up out of Africa thousands of years ago and converted over into Western version of Christianity, as I talked about, the temples and tombs of ancient Kemet validates that the reliefs and why these temples were covered up, because when we see the whole idea of what we know as the winter solstice, what we're in right now, and I go out in my backyard, Dominique, and look up to the sky and see that star that was referred to as Sabasipta, that most people know it as Ceres. That's the Roman term for it. Greeks call it Sothis. And the rising of that star told them the birth of the sun. And in ancient Kemet, this is where Haru became personification of the sun. Later on, Western version, when development of Christianity, Jesus becomes the personification of the sun at this time. When we look at the Yuletide, why do they always have the sun behind their head? All right. When you look at Virgo, okay, she's got the sun behind her head because that's the Virgin. And during the time of as we go into the autumn, it's getting darker. Isn't it getting darker now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As it's getting darker, that's symbolic of that we see the birth of the sun. And it was always personified as, in ancient Kemet, the birth of Haru. And when the Byzantine Romans, who were in Egypt for 400 years, they plagiarized that idea and attached it to Christianity that came up out of ancient spiritual consciousness thousands of years ago. So when we look at the Yuletide, you're looking at a cosmological event and European images, all right? So you look at the Magi, known as the three wise men, all right? Those are the three stars in the constellation of Orion. Anyone can see Orion's constellation. Those three stars point directly to that star during the time of the birth of the sun, precisely at December the 25th. So many people are shocked to hear these stories. And when we go to another temple, as I said, the temple known as Heteru, and she was known as love, okay? And her name was called Murray, all right? That was a symbol for love. That's the ancient name in Kemet. It was called Murray. In the most ancient language of ancient Kemet, called the Medu Neter.
That's
most people,
hieroglyphics, right?
I was about to say what you just said. The Greeks referred to it as hieroglyphics. And here it's a symbol like an A turned sideways and two feathers, Murray. Now, at the conference of Ephesus, okay, in 431 AD, this is where Aset was de-Africanized. And at these various ecumenical conferences, where they started to formulate these different concepts into the making of the Western version of Christianity. And in fact, even in Webster's dictionary, it would even tell you that the virgin birth was at 431. This is where they did this at this particular conference, is the Conference of Ephesus. The first conference was called the Conference of Nicene in 325 AD. And that conference was the formulation of the Western version of what we know as Western version of Christianity, where many things were plagiarized. And I even have a picture of one of the people that they had to go along with this was named Sylvester I. I call him the Clarence Thomas of his day.
We're about to go into news, traffic, and sports right here, and then we'll keep this conversation going on the other side. But one of the questions that I like to look at, and maybe I probably have asked you this before, we've talked over the years, but if I'm a Christian, am I to make of this that, Christianity itself has its origins in ancient Kemet, or is this a debunking of Christianity, or is it a new understanding of the origins, or is it a debunking of certain aspects and it,
Great question.
So we'll look at that after news, traffic, and sports. The iconic historian Ashra Kwesi is here today. Tomorrow is his lecture in LA on Don Felipe Drive, and that's by Afropedia. We'll give you more on that, how to go, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. A federal judge has ordered the feds to release Kilmore Abrego Garcia from an ICE detention center, but the Trump administration is vowing to appeal. Abrego Garcia has become kind of a poster child for immigration raids and the Trump administration's deportation battle with the courts. Abrego Garcia was deported, then returned to the United States in June. U.S. authorities charged him with allegedly helping to smuggle undocumented immigrants into the country. He has pleaded not guilty. To Atlanta, where the Cobb County School District has adopted the state's classroom cell phone ban. It's a move many states have done over the last couple of years. To the box office, where Zootopia is looking to get back to #1 at the theaters this weekend, hoping to pull in more than $26 million. Now, in the film, you hear the voice of Tommy Tiny Lister Jr., who was a black man. His family allowed the actor's voice to be used in the film. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org. Is this the time?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tough loss for the Clippers last night in Houston. They lost by 2 points, 115-113, but had 2 chances in the final 30 seconds to tie it or win it. Kawhi Leonard was charged with an offensive foul, and Nicholas Batum committed a violation on an inbounds pass. Third straight loss for the Clippers. They fall to 6-19. The loss ruined a great game for Clippers center Ivica Zubac. He made 13 of 14 shots to end up with a game-high 33 points. The Lakers are off until Sunday night at Phoenix. USC's football team might have to play their entire home schedule in 2028 at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood because of the Summer Olympics. The track and field competition in 2028 will be in the Coliseum, USC's home field since 1923. UCLA is also considering moving its home football games to SoFi, but on a permanent basis. UCLA has played their home games at the Rose Bowl since 1982. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Days after the Eaton fire devastated entire neighborhoods in Pasadena and Altadena, Black Freedom Fund, an organization that invests in leaders and organizations transforming black communities, established the Black LA Relief and Recovery Fund. The Black LA Relief and Recovery Fund is supporting local organizations, providing direct resources to families, and making sure that recovery reflects the needs and voices of the people who live there. For many, the journey to rebuild is just beginning, and the Black Freedom Fund is committed to being with them every step of the way. Stand with Dina. Donate by texting Black LA to the number 707070. That's Black LA to 707070. Together, we can help our neighbors rebuild their homes, lives, and hope. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, with James Farr on KBLA, Talk 1580.
I got the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
And today at Scholarly Match is Ashra Kwesi. He is here in LA. He's here in the studio with me. And you can go see him lecture. I just put it on my stories on Instagram, but it's also on your Facebook, which is Kemet New, right?
Kemet New, yes.
Kemet.
It means black people. Kemet New is translation, black people.
Okay. It means black people in the Medu Neter.
In the Medu Neter.
The hieroglyphics. Kwamel is complaining that they're serving, the YouTube commercials are serving him up a black Jesus, a white Jesus, while he's trying to listen to you. So the question I pose to you, like, as a Christian, what are people to make of this? What do we make of this? Does it mean that Christianity, the real Christianity, has its roots in ancient Egypt? Does it mean that, you know, some of these symbols shouldn't be connected with Christianity? Or how do you see it?
Well, as you heard me talk, I said the Western version of Christianity. African people, we are a very spiritual people. The foundation, as I refer to the now as the fallopian tube, that 4,000, approximately 200 miles. Why the fallopian tube? Not only to give birth to humanity, it gave birth to spirituality. It became religion today. And so when we look at Christianity, if we're going to be a Christian, then research Christianity. It started in Egypt, all right, the ideas, the spiritual ideas. Now let's look at the early Christians known as the Gnostics. They were known as the knowers of the spiritual truth. Why did the Romans not only persecute and exterminate all of them? In fact, those of us who are know the history of Christianity about Cyprian was a African Gnostic. Why did they cut off his head? To start the persecution of North African Christians. When we look at the early Christian fathers of Tertullian, St. Augustine, they're from North Africa. So they understood the spiritual concepts, okay, of the Ka that I talked about earlier, okay, that the Gnostics called the Charis, all right, and the Romans converted to Christ. All right, that means spiritual, as we're going through this right now, okay, it's referred to as Christmas. It came out of Ka-mes, spiritual birth. So when the Romans were exterminating these early African Gnostics, okay, the earliest spiritual idea of Christianity, they were like the conduit, so to say, of ancient spiritual ideas that came out of Kemet, that was developed thousands of years. But when the Romans were coming in, it was a new world order through Constantine. And through Constantine, he wanted the whole Western version of all of this, okay, to be put in a European world. And that came through their ecumenical conferences that I referred to as the Conference of Nicene in 325 AD, as I refer to as religious gangsters. They got together to formulate the Western version. And through that Western version, this is where we got caught into the images and representation of Christianity, as peace be upon him, as Dr. Clark would say, the colonization of the afterlife. because the images and representation that we got in the angelical realm is all these Europeans, all right? When you go into the church, you see a white Jesus, okay? You see white angels and so forth. And people would say, well, what about this Jesus? Well, first of all, the Romans are the ones who, as I said, persecuted and exterminated the Gnostics who were talking about the Ka. And this may be very deep to many people, that the idea of the Christ that came from the origins of the Ka, that means spirit. That means we all are a Christ, provided that you rise up your spirit, okay, to fight against tyranny and oppression, as the early Gnostics did. So when we see that this Jesus, which is Greek, that the Romans formulated from Serapis, all right, in the making of this character. All right. So now, yes, there were those who were fighting against the tyranny of the Romans, just like we would have a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X who rose up their Ka, their spirit. They were a Christ to fight against tyranny and oppression. All right. That they were fighting against the America. All right. That time, the American government.
Not
so
the America with no Ka.
And this can become confusing to people who, when we're turning back the pages of time here. All right. But again, without the Nile Valley, without Egypt, there would not be, as we know, Christianity as we know it. As I started with Matthew's, where's the Gospels? Where are they writing these things at? They're writing it in Egypt. So the origin of Christianity starts in Egypt.
No matter how you slice it.
Right.
When you said, the rebirth of the sun, you're talking about the sun in the sky.
S-U-N, called Ra in ancient Egypt.
Called Ra. That almost sounds like you're saying we shouldn't be taking these stories literally.
Well, spiritual mythologies. That's what they were in ancient Kemet. And these early astrophysicists who understood the birth of the sun, they understood the heliacal rising of the star called Sebel-Siptah. And I'm going to be showing this. I know that some of this may sound confusing talking about it, but I'm going to show a comparative analysis. I'm going to show the reliefs from the temples and the monuments of
reliefs
Egypt.
are the carvings on the walls,
on the monuments,
into the walls,
on the
right?
Neterhets, divine houses we call temples today.
Neterhets.
Yeah, Neterhets.
I learn a couple of, Medu Neter words every time. Ashra Kwesi and I talk.
Right.
So these reliefs are things that aren't carried away. They're carved into the walls.
They're carved into this temple, and they were built with the temple. And even though they robbed the library, of those papyruses I talked about, and the building of the Alexandria Library, most of us know about the Alexandria Library, but they don't tell us where they got the scrolls to put in that library, okay? And that's what the Romans studied. The Romans and the Byzantine Romans studied for 1,000 years, and that also includes the Greeks.
Morris Phillips 6518 says, "Guess what? Egypt is in Africa, y'all," and that's
northeastern part of Africa, right?
Super basic, but something you've been fighting, and that classic Egyptologists, supposed Egyptologists, do not acknowledge.
Well, they don't want to acknowledge because when Napoleon came in 1798, this became their interest in the awakening of Egypt again. As I said, Theodosius and Justinian are the ones who shut the temples down. They were under the sand for 1,000 years, and no one knew about Egypt. No one knew about the stories. In fact, Egypt was demonized and vilified for people to stay away from it, because once we go back and study, as I said, the reliefs, see the comparisons, we can see how they copied these ideas from. So, so the Western version of Christianity, like Hegel, a German philosopher in around the 1700s, this is what started the academic racism of taking Egypt out of Africa, because he said Egypt was part of the European world. All right. And then from that time out, you say, you're going to Africa? Where are you going in Africa? Well, I'm going to Egypt. Well, Egypt is not in Africa. And that was set out by Hegel to start the academic racism. And from that point out, we had not have a geographical view that Egypt was part of Africa. The Nile does not start in France. The Nile does not start in Europe. The Nile starts in the Great Lakes region. The Nile starts in the area of Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. And the Great Lake, Nyanza, without that interior of Africa, the spiritual ideas that took thousands of years to develop, they reached the zenith in Kemet on those monuments and temples, the Zoop types, not animal worship, just like we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John who are represented as animals. It's not animal worship, but when you refer to Kemet in relationship to animals, it's referred to as animal worship, but the Zoop types that they had on those temples are all related to Africa. They're not in Asia, they're not in Europe, they're all in Africa. The spiritual system is right there in the Nile Valley. And the civilization as well as the spirituality and concepts, okay, we can see this has always been the fear, because the Western world has taught the world was in savagery until Europeans came on the scene.
I mean, and when you do your lectures, well, you have one tomorrow, Saturday, December 13th. It's at 3725 Don Felipe Drive. I just put it in my stories. It's on Kemet New on Facebook. You can find out about getting tickets.
And this is all visual documentation, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You show pictures that match what you're saying.
We're talking about something like this. You know, the cerebral organ called the brain, it'll do what it's supposed to do, think. And that's what it's about, okay? Thinking and seeing the knowledge. And now keep in mind, this did not come overnight. It took, years to see this on the monuments and temples. And why, as I said before, why did Theodosius, you can see where she was chiseled out. Even though they carved into the temple, you still see, even though chiseled, the Holy Child Haru. You see a set. Here we see our virgin birth. We have an Immaculate Conception, the world's first holy city, Aptu. Here we see she's impregnated, okay, by a Sar. Okay, that's the spiritual father of a Haru. So again, one story, it can't be a coincidence. One story after the other. After all, Kemet was thousands of years before the Western world was even in existence. And when we come into the Greek and Roman time period, that was thousands of years later.
Kwamel is asking you, should black people be concerned about modern Egypt's opposition to teaching ancient Kemet was black ruled and populated? And they've been vehement about that.
Well, keep in mind, this is coming from the West. This is coming from the Western world. Keep in mind, the attack on the whole African-centered movement started with the Europeans over here. White people over here, who were attacking the whole African-centered movement. So when you look at Egyptology, even over there, the Egyptology is a European study. All right, they're the ones who started it. I call it white supremacy Egyptology because that's what it is. All right, see, so they just literally brought it over there. The Arabs came in 641 A.D. Okay, they came in as invaders as well, just like the Romans did, just like the Greeks did, and so forth. When you go and look at the indigenous population, especially go into Upper Kemet, here we see this is the indigenous population. They they look just like African people in America, melanated people. All right.
Yeah.
When you go in the Cairo area, the north, or what is known as Lower Egypt, this is where the invasions came in at. Okay, just like in America, you can't expect to see an indigenous person coming into New York City, okay, as they refer to as Native American. You're not going to see them. You have to go way out west where they were pushed. So same thing with Kemet, all right? When we look at the indigenous population, they are in the south, especially when we look at the Ta-Nehisian, or known as the Nubians, all right? Which is Cush is the mother of Egypt. And see, that's a whole nother history and story within itself.
But you just cited that the Arabs invaded or came in migrated,
right.
And the Greeks?
The Greeks again. First, the Greeks came in as philosophers. Okay, when we look at Thales, okay, and Pythagoras, okay, and our children, even though they get the Pythagorean theorem, but they don't tell them where Pythagoras got his theorem from. In fact, about a year ago, sisters were on 60 Minutes. These were young high school students, young African-American high school students who had broke a mathematical code over 2,000 years that they called the Pythagorean theorem. But they didn't tell the young African-American students, two sisters, okay, who broke this code. They didn't tell them that was the Imhotep code going back 5,000 years that Pythagoras plagiarized when he came in and studied for 22 years in Egypt. These are the things they're not told.
That he plagiarized from Imhotep?
Well, he plagiarized the concept. Imhotep goes back 5,000
right.
years. So he was all, but the papyruses of the mathematical, like what they call the most mathematical papyrus, okay, even though they put Europeans' names on it, all right, those who so-called discovered the papyruses, they generally put their names on it, like the Eber's medical papyrus and so forth, okay, and other papyruses. But when we get to Pythagoras, the Western world puts his name on this theorem. You got the greatest monuments on the planet Earth, the great mirrors, known as, the Greeks refer to as pyramids, all right, like Khufu. The largest structure on the planet Earth, the tallest until the Empire State Building, still can't figure out the mathematical skill to how to build that structure. And now it's all about Pythagorean theorem. But those two sisters broke that code. Anybody can look that up. They were on 60
that was a
Minutes.
Great story. Yeah.
They were on 60 Minutes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I hope somebody will tell them the Imhotep, and that goes back to their ancestors where Pythagoras got that from, even though we're deviating from some of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, folks got questions. Well, look, you can go to the lecture tomorrow and get questions answered and see the photos that match.
And the lecture itself, yes.
Yeah, and the lecture itself, and 43 years of travel and seeing this with your own
and take a break from frolicking out here and just getting up in the madness.
Take a break from frolicking. It's hilarious.
Yeah, because even Black Friday, Black Friday was a time that came out of a time when the auction block, that's when a lot of our ancestors were sold on the auction block. That's why it's called Black Friday. That's when they sell a Christmas at that particular time.
Buy you a black person?
Yeah,
wow.
That's what it was.
On sale.
That's what it was.
3725 Don Felipe Drive. Doors open at 5. Lecture starts at 6. You can call 323-849-5087, 323-849-5087. You can go to Kemet New on Facebook, or you can go look at my stories, because I just posted the flyer for it on my stories. I'm going to put it up on my Twitter as well. We're talking with Ashra Kwesi live in studio with unapologetically progressive KBLA. I was going to say unapologetically Kemetic KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
In a city as big as LA, healthcare shouldn't feel far away. That's why Cedars-Sinai is breaking down barriers and bringing resources like free screenings, vaccinations, and wellness programs into local communities. From Leimert Park to Lincoln Heights and everywhere in between, Cedars-Sinai is showing up, partnering with over 200 local organizations to improve access to healthcare resources. Because care doesn't just happen inside a hospital. It happens in neighborhoods and places around the city where we live, work, and grow. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money, or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get some extra time off some kind of way, because I need to go on your tour. You take the tour where people can see all of these reliefs,
all the things, and I lecture every day.
Eyes.
And I lecture every day. Even before you get to the site, you're going to be familiar with the site and know the knowledge of the monuments and temples even before we get there.
It looks so exciting.
15 days. That's what we call the trip of a lifetime, and that's what it is. That's what we
okay, you're going in July.
And a cruise to Nubia, 4 days.
July 13th to 27th, July 30th to August 13th, and a cruise to Nubia.
4-day cruise to Nubia.
Is that before or after we cram our head full of knowledge?
That's going to be the beginning of it. But even on the cruise, we'll have lectures on the cruise. So it's going to be. This
is a traveling university. It's a beautiful tour. They can go to kemetnew.com, KEMETNU. Is that it? Kemetnew.com to sign up. Man. Yeah. Okay. I want to go. I absolutely want to go. I need to go on that trip. I know several people that have traveled with us to Africa have gone with you, and they loved it.
Great.
They love the tours with you and your wife, Merira Kwesi. Shout out to her. She's brilliant.
And that's the balance. She's the business manager. Of the tour. So it'd be a lot of rough edges if I was doing this. But I always say, brothers, we see the picture, but we miss a lot of details. So she knows the details.
Everyone play your position.
Right. Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's called the spiritual dialectical laws of opposites. That's my art.
Is Ma'at, do you think that the principles of Ma'at are they related to Christianity? Is that part of
yes.
early
Well, right now we're talking about Christianity, but when we look at the Hebrew religion, it took ideas. And we speak of Ma'at and the moral ethical codes. There was originally 147 of these moral ethical codes broken down into 42. You see it on the Pratetas, or meaning the tombs, or the Valley of the Kings, and because to go into the spiritual realm, you had to have these moral ethical codes that you had to live by while you were on earth. Like what? Okay, I have not robbed, I have not killed, I have not stolen. And what does that sound like to you?
Sounds like some commandments.
Right, but it says, I have not. And even if you go and read Sigmund Freud and Moses' monotheism, and Sigmund Freud is talking about how the whole idea of the Ten Commandments was taken from the laws of Ma'at. And in that he says, Kemet had it right because you proclaimed your own. I have not done this. But in the Hebrew version, someone's telling you.
Telling you what to do instead of worrying about themselves.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Right.
I know we just got a couple minutes here, but how does the winter solstice, which is coming up, the 21st, how does that tie into all of this?
Well, this is what it's all about. It's the winter solstice. It's what our ancestors observed for thousands of years. It's the birth of the sun. And they saw that in the Kames. And the Kames is the spiritual birth of the sun. That's what it is. It's a spiritual beginning. It's a spiritual birth. In ancient Kemet, that personified in the early spiritual story of the holy birth of Haru that I've been talking about. That was based off of that helical rising of that star. This Romans called Ceres, and most of us know it by that name. In Kemet, it's called Sepulchre. And the three stars in Orion's belt. That points. Anyone can see it. December the 25th, and provided there's no clouds, you can see. Look to the right, you'll see the constellation Orion. Three stars in Orion belts points to that star. Okay, that becomes the three magi that they refer to as the three wise men. All right. So here, all this is about cosmology. And now Europeans have put themselves in the Yuletide. And we look at it as though this is a story that is real when it was based off of cosmology, birth of the sun, and spiritual ideas that were plagiarized from ancient Kemet. It goes back thousands of years ago. Sa-Ra is the birth of the Son of God. Sa-Ra, that was taken from the temples of Kemet. Neb-Kadu. I mean, this was most mind-blowing to me. Okay, once I started to study the Medu Neter and seeing concepts like Neb-Kadu, Lord, King of Kings, I mean, what are you hearing here? You're hearing ideas and things that are in the Bible, all right? That's why I refer to these are books in stone, because it's from those temples that we can see that without them, what we know in the religions, not only Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Krishna, all that knowledge came up out of that fallopian tube. So not only was it the birth of humanity, it was the birth of spirituality that became Western religions today.
Yeah, we have 30 seconds.
And so much to talk about in such a short period. But this lecture will be definitely, we're going to get into this, and from the reliefs, one can see where, and I specifically am talking about it at this time because of this particular time of the year. And we can see that this came from our ancestors thousands of years ago. We have, as Dr. Good friend, peace be upon him, Dr. Richard King would say, we have an African ancestral genetic memory bank, but it's been locked up. And it's been locked up through the deification of someone else's culture, and images and representation. But once we open up that spiritual ancestral genetic memory bank, it's like the ancestors are knocking at the door, all right? And all we open up, and this will all open up to you. I did not know this myself, but I wanted to know. And as they say, seek and you shall find,
Absolutely.
And know that truth, and that truth will set you free. Well, I feel I've been set free, all right, and understanding the world around me and not just living in a bubble and just out there frolicking and carrying on and spending all your money. Maybe you can save some money and understand what this is all about.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Ashra Kwesi, thank you so much for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been an honor, Dominic.
The best of Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got highlights from the week that was, and boy, does he have some great highlights. Well, like my mama used to say, history is now. Like I always say, we're living it together. Until next time, one love.
One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. A federal judge has ordered the feds to release Kilmore Abrego Garcia from an ICE detention center, but the Trump administration is vowing to appeal. Abrego Garcia has become kind of a poster child for immigration raids and the Trump administration's deportation battle with the courts. Abrego Garcia was deported, then returned to the United States in June. U.S. authorities charged him with allegedly helping to smuggle undocumented immigrants into the country. He has pleaded not guilty. To Atlanta, where the Cobb County School District has adopted the state's classroom cell phone ban. It's a move many states have done over the last couple of years. To the box office, where Zootopia is looking to get back to #1 at the theaters this weekend, hoping to pull in more than $26 million. Now, in the film, you hear the voice of Tommy Tiny Lister Jr., who was a black man. His family allowed the actor's voice to be used in the film. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org. Is this the time?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tough loss for the Clippers last night in Houston. They lost by 2 points, 115 to 113, but had two chances in the final 30 seconds to tie it or win it. Kawhi Leonard was charged with an offensive foul, and Nicholas Batum committed a violation on an inbounds pass. Third straight loss for the Clippers. They fall to 6-19. The loss ruined a great game for Clippers center Ivica Zubac. He made 13 of 14 shots to end up with a game-high 33 points. The Lakers are off until Sunday night at Phoenix. USC's football team might have to play their entire home schedule in 2028 at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood because of the Summer Olympics. The track and field competition in 2028 will be in the Coliseum, USC's home field since 1923. UCLA is also considering moving its home football games to SoFi, but on a permanent basis. UCLA has played their home games at the Rose Bowl since 1982. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Celebrate the soul of the holidays and support Altadena and Pasadena. Join us on Monday, December 15th, 7 p.m. inside the Bram Goldsmith Theater at the Wallace in Beverly Hills for Soul of the Holidays, a joyful night of Motor City soul, gospel, and holiday classics featuring an 18-piece band, all-star vocalist, and community choirs, all in support of the Black LA Relief and Recovery Fund. This performance comes at a pivotal time for many in Altadena and Pasadena. This is their first holiday season since the devastating Altadena Eden Canyon fire, which destroyed homes and community spaces. While the physical losses are immense, the power of community remains, and your attendance directly supports